Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another awesome Adobe Live Education Edition. My name is Ann Cosma. I'm one of the education evangelists, and I am so excited to be joined by an awesome teammate. Martha, say hello.
Woo! Oh my gosh, Anne, I'm so excited to be here. I didn't know if I was going to make it. Y'all, if you were watching yesterday, was in New York. I'm in Atlanta today, and I'm so excited to connect with Anne and go over all this really cool stuff with Adobe Express for Education. It's going to be great.
Okay, so speaking of really cool stuff, Martha, this is a really cool, extra Adobe Live session all
Mhm.
about empowering folks who are not going to be at the ISTE conference coming up at the end of June. And for those of you who are brand new to ISTE or the ISTE conference, it is the International Society for Technology and Education. It is an annual gathering of educators and education community from around the world, exploring tools, best practices, pedagogical impacts, transformative possibilities. And Adobe is so proud to be part of this conference. But we also realize that not everybody can actually travel from around the world and come together in Texas for this annual event. So, Martha, the Adobe Express for Education team is providing our content, our sessions in advance for everybody. So whether you are at ISTE, we can't wait to see you, or if you are not at ISTE, you are getting our sessions live and available on demand in advance. So we're kicking off a double session today, Martha, and we're starting with less stress, more Adobe Express, and talking about 10 time-saving tips. How's that feel?
Oh my gosh, I love this because what better way to kick off not at ISTE? To
Yeah,
me, when you're talking about less stress,
yeah.
when we're not traveling, we're able to do a PD by the pool in our PJs with our kids running around, whatever that might look like to you. So I'm here for it. Let's go,
Oh my
Anne.
gosh. Well, folks, whether you are just getting started or you're already using Adobe Express for Education in your classroom, this session is going to help you walk away with tips that you can use right away. And we're ready to jump in. Martha, hit that next slide.
Love
So,
it.
this is what we are going to cover today. We've got 10 time-saving tips. They're going to help you simplify your own creative workflow, integrate that generative AI into your smart classroom-ready ways. We're going to show examples and talk about, those kinds of ways you can up-level this, but also talk about making working with PDFs a breeze, help give students faster, more meaningful feedback. And I love that, Martha. I love that especially because I love to say every click matters. So if you're speeding things up or talking about a creative workflow process or saving time or providing meaningful feedback, all super, super powerful. And each tip is designed with real teachers in mind. We're sharing quick practical examples along the way, how these ideas can come to life. And our goal is to help you spend less time on tech and more time on what matters, which is your students.
Which is why we do this. Woo
Yeah.
woo. Clicks and tricks. And that's what we're covering. Clicks
I
and
love
tricks.
that. Clicks and tricks. And so you see on screen, just simplifying those creative assignments, that generative AI for classroom visuals, editing PDFs on the fly, streamlining student feedback. Those are just a few of the tips we'll get into. But you just said it, Martha, clicks and tricks. And before we get into this, let's go to the next slide. Let's set up the foundation for what folks are going to be doing. This is a little bit of a light refresher for those that might already know or are familiar with Adobe Express for Education. Adobe Express for Education is the digital media app that engages the students with imagination, building future ready skills, inspiring critical thinking, and saving teachers time. And Martha, these four little bullet points, I love this because I love this tool and I love talking about the tool as a way to not only express ideas creatively, but bring those future ready skills to life. These are all standards aligned. The templates, the responsible generative AI features, the scaffolds about it being designed responsibly, But see that little red circle on the screen? I love sharing this too. It is free for K-12 educators
Say
and
less.
students. Oh
Say,
my gosh. Okay, let's talk about those 4 bullet points real quick. Take on that engage imagination one, Martha.
oh my gosh. This is like the bread and butter of what I love about education and bringing creativity into the
Yeah,
classroom.
yeah,
Like stepping back a little bit, and free and equitable. You
yes,
know,
thank
when we
you.
have that word free, that means it's equitable. That
Yeah,
means every student has access to this tool. And that right there will level the playing field for every single student and teacher that we
yeah.
come in contact with. And that's why
That's
we
a
do
game
what we do.
changer.
But like, let's make learning fun, right? So engaging that imagination with digital media projects while covering key concepts, like that's such a hard balance. You know, I've come from 15 years of education where you go through direct instruction to like, let's do more PBL or project-based
Yeah.
learning, and let's get a little more authentic and inquiry-based learning and all that kind of stuff. It's like, how do you balance all of that? And Adobe Express has so many different ways that you can interact and engage students, making it fun while also teaching content.
I love that. I love that. And I just did the other session. It was live just before this. And Martha, I feel like that piece of fun, the way my learning community, when I was still in the classroom and a coach in my district, we talk about disguised learning and hard fun because we experienced these transformative changes in my community when students began creating content and they saw their content and their learning come to life in new visual ways and new representation through the digital content they were creating. So to engage imagination means to engage so many aspects from a student's head, from their heart, from the unique and authentic ways that they represent their learning. And I just said this to Jesse on our other session. I use the words all the time: share, celebrate, and showcase learning. And I love that Adobe Express empowers people to make learning fun, but with powerful, dynamic digital media. I love it.
Can I add one little piece on that
Yeah,
too? Because I hear us being very student centered, which is so critical in education. But like, when I think about engaging imagination, it's not just engaging our students' imagination, it's also engaging our teachers' imagination of like what could be or what is possible.
yeah,
Because, you know, especially like with curriculum being scripted a lot of times, like I hear you, I see you, like it is a hard world for education sometimes. And because of that, I know a lot of teachers that get shut down. Being able to see fun activities that can still accomplish what you need to get done in the classroom, like
yeah.
that's such a bucket filler for a lot of teachers. And so if you are dabbling, just play around a little bit with us today. Check out one of our Adobe lives, you know, just kind of tinker and play because
Yeah.
we can't break it. It's going to be great, but engage your own imagination as well. Like, you know, it's about the kids, but it's also about you too.
Pro tip. I love it. Well, Martha, let's jump into the other bullet points real quick. So
We
building.
got stuck on one.
I know, but that's okay because like what we're going to jump into is
I
sharing these
know.
tips and
Right.
10 time saving tips. It is to help educators, but your reminder and your call to action for educators to feel empowered to express and engage their own imagination is that transformative possibility. So thank you. But also like this session is and this tool literally is to build those future ready skills. So making assignments seamless while developing a skill, like those things we talk about, communication, collaboration, and of course, generative AI and the way that in this tool it is designed responsibly for students and educator use.
For sure. I feel like you said that perfectly. I was about to be like, I feel like we could do a podcast, Dan. That's really what I feel like, where we
Let's
could
do
do
it.
a whole episode just on that. But yes, we don't know what students are going to have access to 10 years from now in terms of like job employment, colleges, career readiness, all of those types of things. But what we do know is that critical thinking skills, those
Yeah.
communication skills, collaboration skills, and y'all, generative AI and access to understanding artificial intelligence is not going away. This is like the internet when it came out how many years ago, or when we went one-to-one devices. We got to get with it and prepare our students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you touched on that, like understanding how to prepare them touches on that critical thinking piece, the retention of information, the knowledge development, but coming back to like a teacher point, saving time. That's what this session is all about. So creating quickly with classroom specific guided activities, the templates, these are grade specific, subject specific, and they're all free for K-12, right? So it makes it easy to assign, to review, to create these assignments in real time, and even provide real-time feedback too. So um,
Perfect.
I think we should jump in. Tip number one. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. So folks, as we're talking about using generative AI to bring creative projects to the next level, these unique visuals can be yours with just a prompt. So what you're seeing on the screen is students typing a prompt and they're instantly generating those images for their projects. This is literally helping bring curricular topics to life. So here's a real use case, right? This student is using the generative AI prompt. Maybe they're talking about a historical moment in time, a place, a location, experience. I know this is a specific example where they're going to have the top of the screen with the mountain, right? But we're getting into a volcanic eruption eventually, right? So this is custom, specific. Take a generic image, level up in any kind of creative way, but it's showing how students can create a unique visual with just a prompt. And Martha, I love it because you can iterate on the prompt. Use academic language, that higher tiered vocabulary. I just said with younger students, use a sentence frame, a word chart, environmental print, anything to help learners of all ages. And what they're doing now is inserting objects with that generative AI piece as well, which allows you to continue to even up level the pictures that you're creating and use AI to even insert a picture within an AI generated image.
The amount of critical thinking that this requires for
Yep.
students to be able to interpret what they're reading, what they're
Yep.
seeing, what they're learning in their classrooms, and then bringing that to life. My husband's a history teacher, and he loves this so much
Yeah.
because it allows students to use like primary sources of like the descriptors of the time period or the clothing pieces, like all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Like Montezuma, we don't have like a really great picture of him, but we know descriptions of him. So using that to bring that to life is so cool. Okay, so going on to our next
Okay.
tip. Are you ready, Anne, for our next tip? Hey, friend, are we ready for number two?
All right. I'm having an internet glitch. I think I'm back. I paused for a moment. Can you hear me? Are we coming in live? I'm ready to jump to the next tip.
I see you. I'm ready.
Awesome. All right. Okay, perfect. So, Martha, I know you were talking about that visual description, but let's just jump into the next one as we were going from generative AI. I love this next tip. It's making quick edits to PDFs in Adobe Express. And this is something that's so powerful for me. Making a quick edit, you can upload literally any PDF and it becomes the ability to add, edit, rearrange, personalize PDF so quickly. What you're seeing on the screen is that example to take and use it and drag and drop PDF editing. Oh my gosh, rearrange, insert visuals, annotate directly, so quick inside Adobe Express.
Such a game changer. And we should do another session just on this for our friends going into
Oh,
back to school because, hello,
yeah,
right here, like having a whole article and bringing that to life using tip number one, like,
yeah,
come on.
yeah, yeah. I
All
mean,
right.
and a real life, like the example of just updating any information or changing the layout or adding a few graphics,
Mhm.
so, so powerful.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Tip number 3, you ready?
Yeah. I don't know why it's being so slow. Sorry, y'all. It is. There we go. We got it.
All good. There it is. Okay. Guided activities. Martha, this is something I think you and I both could talk about all day, every day, and for the rest of time, right? I
Mhm.
love a guided activity because it is includes step by step scaffolds, supports, learning moments to help you and your students know how to complete one of these activities. So those video instructions can be used, they can be paused, they can be popped out, displayed on screen, or used on demand in your own way to provide that visual support. There is also text-based support. This literally will walk people through step by step how to complete something. The prompt, the examples, and it provides that creative scaffolding, right? And guided activities literally will take you through the process, but also build in a reflection piece, that communication piece that's enabled through your creative expression. And there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of these, and they're continuing to add them into Adobe Express. But it literally is a great starting point too for folks who are new if they're looking for a great way. What do you love most about guided activities? Because I think in my description of it, you could tell how passionate I am about using these, but how dynamic they are as a learning resource also.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of it is how much of a time saver this is. I go back
Yeah.
to when I was teaching on 30-minute special rotations as an elementary school librarian, and you had such a little amount of time to do any sort of lesson prep work. So I'm teaching kindergartners all the way through fifth graders. I want to give them the digital skills and opportunities that like full planning would offer them. I just didn't have it. You know, you
Yeah.
were teaching back to back to back all day long. Guided activities allowed me to not have to self-record different ways of completing projects. I could pull up the guided activities and do that right there with students with the walkthrough, and the ability to offer students that like that scaffolding or like building creative confidence. I don't know if everyone knows what scaffold means, but like to be able to build on that creative confidence, like it's not a blank screen. So
Yeah.
you don't have students taking 30 minutes to settle in. They already have something to work off of. And that's a huge game changer,
Yeah.
especially when you're working with littles and with middle school. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it for me.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh. I love it. That creative confidence, though, even for adults and the educators and folks using this, we describe ourselves as lifelong learners. I am still learning. And when I joined the Adobe team last year, I went through so many of these guided activities to help me level up my own skill and confidence, even knowing where a button is or what to click. The guided instructions built into these guided activities literally walk you through. And I love what you shared about building creative confidence. I love it. Thank you.
we're here to
Mic
build
drop.
mic drop moment.
Okay.
What other is a mic drop?
Okay. Slide 4. Now, I love this because when you say saving tips, like saving time, I love sharing that every click matters. And like to create a workflow that streamlines the process into your LMS or alongside your LMS, game changer, right? Because it really helps speed up the workflow for an educator. So you can create and manage Adobe Express assignments and give real time feedback, right? I love this. This is built into like our classroom feature, but also rostering within these other tools like Google Classroom, Clever, ClassLink. That makes the sharing and that streamlined process to roster so quick with like a few clicks, right?
Yeah, I don't
So,
know if you've heard this, Anne, but our tagline is creativity for all. And we started off by saying it's free for all of K-12, pre-K through 12 to be, depending on where you're at. But when we're talking about equitable access and it's free, it's also free if it's connected to what your district is already using, and
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Google Classroom, ClassLink, Clever, the whole 9 yards. Like I love that it integrates because then it doesn't matter what district you're in, you can still use it.
Oh my gosh. So let's take this for a moment because you just said creativity for all and using these. We also have Adobe Classrooms built into our tool, right? So if they're pushing out a template or assigning an activity through Classrooms, the workflow is as simple as copying the assignment link and pasting it into your LMS, right? Or using Classrooms to have the students turn in their work. They can view their progress. I love those color indicators that show up, letting the educator know who and what student or what learner is at what stage of starting the project or actively working on the project or it's turned in. Also, the ability to leave feedback directly on a student's project, like click on the canvas at the specific location and add feedback for that. I love how this streamlines not only the creativity but also the like the classroom management aspect
Mhm.
without disrupting any kind of like existing LMS workflow. So I love
Yes.
this.
Those feedback loops just keep going. All right.
Yep.
Speaking of, keep going. Number five.
All right, using remixable templates for lessons you teach every year. Game changer. Save any project you're making as a reusable template. Remix the student work or tweak lessons for new content. Just a yearly update. Maybe it's a back to school newsletter. Maybe it's a student learning portfolio where they document growth over time. With a tweak of a text box, a date, a title, etc., you can templatize something and literally just remix it. So, this is a brilliant pro tip. Also, not only those back to school activities, as mentioned, the newsletters, meet the teacher, what to know about our school or our classroom. Think about things like science posters or writing reflections or any kind of thing that you might find yourself doing from a semester or a quarter to an annual project and remixing it. So maybe this is an all about me poster that's made in Adobe Express. That's a great example and a real life example of a year to year. Remix it, generate that link, share that template with students. Boom.
Mhm.
Saving time every time.
Ah, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right. Number six.
Okay, you ready for this? Replacing text-heavy newsletters with visual updates. I'm a
This.
visual processor, visual learner, also just making it visually accessible. This is such a great way to make maybe it's parent communication or student communication, but using those types of text-heavy newsletters and putting it into a flyer, a web page, recap learning, recap an event, showcasing the work, or even sharing a reminder for something that's upcoming or needed. A brilliant thing inside Adobe Express, add links to the images or to the videos, which is just a way to extend the content or the connection, right? Think about how a link can launch to a resource or a product. Think about how a video can bring that learning to life visually or auditorily for somebody, right?
Pro
And
tip
yeah,
and pro tip. Google, not Google, oh my gosh, that's clearly a verb nowadays. In the search bar of in Adobe Express, you can search for different templates. You can search by different content areas. But we have an ACE innovator in South Texas. Her name is Celeste and does her monthly, I know, shout out to Celeste.
yep.
She does a monthly library newsletter, y'all, and connect with her because it's amazing, where she sends it out as a PDF and a link. And then you can update it every month. So you duplicate each page. So every time the link stays the same, the QR code stays the same, you just add extra pages and then you have a full year of newsletters and no one has to wonder where to go or how to find information. It's all there. And she has the cutest videos of her kids that she sends out. It's such a great way to connect with the community, the parents, the students, the administrators, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. And so yeah, I know this is a tip, but also like what a time saver to just have it done during pre-planning and then duplicate that page every
Yeah,
month.
there it is. So whether it's a highlight from the week, something upcoming to be aware of, literally save valuable time, reuse, remix, templatize. Martha, I love that. And shout out to Celeste. Those newsletters are dynamic. So,
She's so
all
great.
right. Tip number 7, folks, we are going to talk about why students let them show what they know visually, right? This is an awesome point. You can create posters, videos, web pages, demonstrate knowledge in any kind of way. I've said it already, I'll say it again. Share, celebrate, and showcase learning because Adobe Express empowers people to visually share and represent their learning. So
Mhm.
it's demonstrating knowledge from a particular grade or subject area. Sometimes it's also easier than drafting a multi-page something or a paragraph or heavy text-based response and providing that visual dynamic to represent thinking and learning, right? But let's imagine this. Here's a great example. Fifth grade science teacher assigning a project for the water cycle, right, Martha?
Mhm.
Students could create posters or label each stage or even pop in an animated character to talk about that part of the water cycle, but literally create and enhance the designs with the generative AI or represent their learning in that creative way and then
Mhm.
share it out. Videos, posters, web pages, like you see on the screen. That's just a quick reminder. Let the students show what they know visually.
I want to spend 30 extra seconds, just 30
Yep.
extra seconds, just because our second half isn't as long as this one, I feel like. So 30 extra seconds talking about showing students, allowing students to show what they know visually is what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Visible thinking. I don't know about you, Anne, but I've met a lot of teachers who want to do that, but they have a hard time releasing control and trusting in the process,
Yeah.
trusting themselves to offer the right opportunities, but also trusting that students are still going to be able to get across what they need to get across, right? To be able to show what they know. These are pedagogically sound. So the trust level's already there. You know that this is already trustworthy in terms of like the pedagogical approaches to how we learn and how we show information and all of that. And then so you can trust yourself and trust students a little bit more. So it alleviates that stress a smidge to me. So I
Yeah.
think that was an underlining concept that we hadn't quite touched on. So
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you take a moment to do that too. And I think as we think about um, the trust factor too is like empowering people to create and going through these experiences, and maybe you're creating something together, or maybe you're using those guided activities as mentioned to literally scaffold through the process. And you talked about like creative confidence, but it's also building awareness. It's building
mhm.
that workflow like and enhancing that. um but also you hit that point home with me. I remember when my students started creating things and it was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, because everything looked different. It was not a cookie cutter style project. It was an authentic representation of their brain power coming out of them in such a unique way. And it transformed everything for me, but it also broadened my perspective of how I should be letting my students represent their learning, or challenged me to think about letting go of maybe something I had been doing and trying something new. I thank you. That's a whole other podcast episode.
We've got the next 6 or 7 Adobe Lives right there, friends.
Okay. I mean, awesome.
Okay.
So we are going through these. Of course, we have a couple more tips to share because this is a double session and we're going to present a whole other slide deck with different content. But let's talk about tip 8 real quick and using that real-time commenting to streamline the feedback loop. And Martha, you see it happening in the video where an educator literally could leave comments on any student project directly through using that Adobe Classrooms feature, right? Students can
Mhm.
respond to the teacher in the same thread. It eliminates the need for that back and forth. Where's the feedback? Oh, check your email. Wait, I like it eliminates that and it streamlines that process. So I love, love, love that you could click on the project in a very specific area. You can say something as simple as like, hey, adjust the font, or hey, check the visual that supports this, and the student can go in and respond or revise, making any kind of like,
Mhm.
adjustment as needed. But that's a fast feedback loop. It's focused feedback in a specific area, and it really just obviously speeds up the process for everybody, right? So,
Mhm.
folks, this is all available through that feedback loop inside of Adobe Express Classroom feature. Love
And it's
it.
available in any project too, including web pages now. So you can go onto web pages and the more traditional type projects as well. So that's exciting.
I love
All
it.
right, two more, friend.
Okay, work galleries, showcasing through the galleries. Now, this is a really cool way to save time, but there's that word celebrating again. You can celebrate student work with the click of a button, and what they would do is literally like enable the galleries aspect. And this is bringing that visual representation of learning to life for a community, right? So whether you're sharing this through those projects or the newsletters or the updates, showcase work, documenting that growth over time. There's no formatting stress. The projects like automatically come together. So let's say they're using galleries to compile, because that's what it's doing, all of the
Mhm.
student projects in one place. And the gallery is then shared via a single view only link, making it easy for folks to explore the student work. And I love this because it is a gallery showcase of learning. It is a celebration of learning. It is that ability to share the visual aspects of what the students are doing to document and demonstrate learning. But look at that on screen, Martha. It's literally the ability to engage and see and bring learning to life through the multiple, projects displayed from that community.
Part of project-based learning, and really with any project that you're doing with kids or an assignment like this, it could be simple assignments. It's
Mm-hmm.
that authentic audience piece that
Yep.
we oftentimes like get super overwhelmed about, or like don't have time for other aspects. Like we get why it doesn't happen, but it needs to happen. Students need to feel seen and valued and heard in the classroom, and this is a small way to do that, y'all.
Yeah.
Just on the galleries aspect of it. And so I just love that this has come out recently, and I cannot wait to see this being utilized more going into the upcoming school year,
I
because
know.
I know the stories that are going to come out about this are going to be like so heart filling. And so that leads us into our last tip and trick.
Yep.
Let's click
as
into.
we as we get into that one, the last point about the galleries, there's no formatting stress. It
Oh,
looks
gosh,
polished automatically, right? Like it's
save me
such
time.
a beautiful, yeah. I can't wait to see, especially. And Martha, all teachers need to do is just click and enable, right? Like it's right
It.
there. So,
Yeah.
okay. Tip number 10, team up to support students together. And I live and love a better together mindset. So why not add a co-teacher inside Adobe Express? I see it right on the wall behind you. But this tip is literally about empowering you to save time, improve that classroom management workflow, and collaborate with your fellow educators using the co-teacher feature inside of Adobe Express. So not only, Martha, to manage assignments, monitor submissions, perhaps, provide that feedback, but both educators, you would simply type in their school email domain that they're using within your domain, and the teachers can access and comment on the student work in real time. So say there's a specials teacher, right, working with a different classroom teacher. And think about you in the library and me in the classroom, and the way we could have collaborated across our own campus,
We
allowing
would have been
both
a
of
dream
us,
team.
right?
And
Oh my gosh, right? But allowing us both to not only track that student progress, manage the assignments, and provide that feedback. This is such an easy, powerful way to level up the collaboration and the support using that co-teacher feature.
yeah, I love that. So
Wow.
all of them, all here, friends. Recap 10 time saving tips with Adobe Express.
Yep.
There is a place for all of us in Adobe Express.
Yep.
Creativity for All, it guides what we do, and just making sure that we just had a brief overview before we moved on to our second session. But y'all, this was such a phenomenal little tips and tricks, clicks and tricks episode where Anne, and your joy, Anne, I cannot, it's just the best.
Listen, it's
The best.
everything to help folks as they're using Adobe Express. And Martha, I know you're going to get ready to share that next screen, but if we want to share real quick the next slide as we transition in, folks, we definitely want to set you up for success. Remember, all of Adobe Express is completely free for you and your school district. We have a ton of back to school resources. Martha will share the QR code at the end, but
Yeah,
thank you. Those tips we hope are just transformative for you. And let's take it away for that next session. You ready?
I know. I'm so excited. I'm just pulling it up right here, friends. No worries there. There we
Yay!
go. Oh,
Awesome.
OMG, OMG. Sorry, I'm just thinking about, what we used to say when we were younger. And like my son is Gen Alpha, and I have a daughter that's Gen Z. And then you've got a millennial and an elder millennial in this
Oh,
house. And so we've got all sorts of sayings that are going on. But, the joy of Adobe Express is, it's part of such a larger ecosystem with Creative Cloud apps. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And like going from our youngest students, our youngest little creators in our lives, all the way through people like me and our Gen Xers and our cutie pies that are, even beyond that. And so this is the second session for Nada ISTE that we're going to do together today, Anne. And it's all about igniting creativity any place that you are in life, from school to career and everywhere in between, whether that's college, career ready, all the stuff. And so I'm learning a lot about Creative Cloud. I'm living in an Adobe Express ecosystem for so long. Like, it's so cool to expand and see what else do our students and our teachers and our creators out there that have access to. And so to me, we're going to think about how a student you've taught lit up to be creative. Like, what did it unlock for them? What if every student had access to any of the tools that might unlock that just for them? Because I think of it like like how I learned how to read. Not every book is right for every kid. It's
yeah.
about finding that right book for them that they connect to. And to me, creativity is one of those things that feels a little taboo in conversation sometimes because, oh, I'm not creative or I'm not artistic, because you look at it with this traditional lens. You may not feel creative or feel artistic or whatever it might look like to you, because you haven't found the right tool yet that leans into your skill set or leans into, your strengths or your interest and all that kind of stuff. I didn't feel like I was creative till I'm almost 40 years old, and it took me a while to figure that out about myself, and I'm learning that. So hopefully we can help our students learn that younger and younger, so that their creative confidence, we were talking about that in the last session, so that creative confidence continues to build. So we are creating these amazing future ready students.
Well,
That was,
and Martha, as you jump into the next slide, just
yeah,
thinking about the bridge from like school into career, like I keep going like this because it's a spectrum, right? And we're continuing on in our journey. And I love that, these Adobe tools, they're like professional creative tools helping K-12 students literally become creators, see themselves as creators, communicators, and follow with them along that journey. So it's powerful.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think this is more about the foundational approaches to creativity, which I think is so important. And so we're going to talk a little bit about these three bullets that you see on your screen. And it's about supporting creativity at every grade level. It's about looking at tools for the moment, for the project, for the assignment, for the individual students that you have sitting there in your classrooms. But also about how to align those tools to real classroom needs. How do we connect a real real applications in the classroom. It may look different, look different based on what you're teaching or the content that you're covering. And then how do we bridge learning to those real world careers? And I got to be honest, Anne, and this is something that I wish I learned younger in my teaching career. And I don't know about you, but like being in elementary and middle school for so long and then jumping to the high school level, I didn't bridge as much in my brain that I could have on what my students are doing today in my third grade classroom or my sixth grade classroom, how that's preparing them for college or career ready. I was thinking about the skills that they're learning today, and I wish I had made that connection sooner, and it would have opened a lot more doors. So how do students graduate with skills, portfolios, and pathways based on what they need moving forward?
Yeah.
So let's jump in here. Let's break this down because we talked about this a little bit in our previous session, but I think we're going to dig a little bit deeper into it. And let's talk about why creativity is so essential.
Okay.
And y'all, like going back into back to school, you are probably going to be met with a lot of conversations, grade level, content area, principal, administration, district level conversations about, well, if our reading scores are this way or math scores are this way or this or that, like why creativity? And so having that verbiage in your back pocket, like we all know it's important, but we also need to embed it intentionally. So I love that we are breaking it down so that you have what you need to advocate for creativity. So first off, and this is not going away, creativity is a future ready skill, y'all. Like according to the World Economic Forum, listen to this, Anne, creativity ranks among the top skills needed for tomorrow's workforce. Y'all, there's a creativity with AI report that Adobe did last year. I don't know if you have access to it, Anne, but listen, it's all over our socials. We'll try to drop it, but it is phenomenal. But right alongside problem solving and collaboration, creativity ranks number one. When we give students opportunities to create, we're not just helping them succeed in school, we're really helping them to thrive in any situation that they're put in, including social skills. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but the second bullet is like near and dear to my heart, is creativity helps support student well-being. We have seen how students are feeling, especially post 2020, and creativity matters more now than I feel like it's ever mattered, especially around student well-being. Many students are rebuilding confidence and they're finding ways to connect in ways that they may not have learned before. Creative tools give them that safe space to express themselves and explore in a safe space, explore their emotions and re-engage in learning in a meaningful way. My husband and I talk about this all the time, and our son started kindergarten or pre-K during 2020, so like 2019, 2020. And so he didn't have like a real foundation of school. It was all virtual learning for him, which, not getting into that, it's just how do we support students after that when you weren't in classrooms to like learn that in the way that they could have been. And so I think that also leads into the more that they're able to explore themselves, it builds empathy, right? Because when you explore expression, creative expression within yourself, it also lets you connect on a deeper level with other people, and that builds empathy. When students are able to share their stories, illustrate different points of view, bring personal projects to life, they begin to see and understand the perspectives of other people and those connections, right? And this is our thing.
I was going to say, and it's a game changer. It is our thing because we want our students to feel seen and heard. This makes a difference for how students show up in the classroom. It's
100%.
community, it's community building and a learning community, spending an academic year together. When they have that kind of awareness or broadened perspective, the empathy, it's transformative. And it is our thing. We could talk about that all day.
Add that to the checklist of Adobe Lives that we're going to be doing, friend. But I think that also leads into, I really like how this flow chart goes, and because once you understand how students are as human beings and you see them as individuals and you see that they're all kind of learning and growing internally and externally alongside other people, we also then understand not every student is made for every test. And I know that drives a lot of funding. It drives a lot of what happens in education, top down, and all of that. But some students don't show their learning in that way. And that's not always the best way for them to share that. So, how do we allow students to communicate through visuals and videos and voiceovers and storytelling and podcasts? And how do we offer creative assignments that give them a way to show what they know and feel confident while doing that and reflects their strengths and builds their confidence at the same time? Like, that's kind of why we do what we do.
And Martha, that launches so beautifully into like the last bullet point about creation making learning visible. And so that visible representation, because our
Mhm.
brains learn, think, intake, process, output differently. Like you literally through this creation process can see students going through that process, what they've understood, how they've connected concepts, where they've taken their learning or extended it in different new ways, right? Powerful, personal, and often more meaningful than a traditional assessment. And so I think that the creative, flexible pathways, if it's a traditional assessment or if it's a digital content that they're creating with Adobe Express, it literally is allowing that celebration and showcasing of learning, but it's making it coming alive in this new visible way. I
I
mean, that's a
need you to
beautiful
have a
point to
t-shirt.
wrap up about empowering kids, right?
I need
Empowering
that
everyone.
t-shirt. Celebrate kids, like
Yeah.
just right here. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And so that gets into Adobe Creative Cloud. I don't know about y'all, but this was real intimidating to me. When you hear Adobe Creative Cloud, you're like, oh my goodness, that if you're a normal educator like Anna and myself, and you're teaching your second grade babies or you're teaching your seventh grade biology class and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, I thought Creative Cloud was for our art teachers or for the digital media classes in high school. And y'all, that's not the case. Creative Cloud has so many options for students and for teachers and for parents in our community that goes way beyond that I am so glad that I've learned. And so we're just going to get into a little bit of that. And I like to think of it like a creative toolkit, like you pick and choose what you need for the moment. And so Adobe makes industry leading Creative Cloud apps accessible to all students, K-12, students who aspire to be professional creators, empowering educators to ignite imagination, but also unlocking like full potential. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, Anne, but as a teacher, I would be like, oh, I'm hesitant to try something new because I didn't feel like the expert. And I promise you,
Yeah.
you allow students into something and they will figure it out because they're curious, naturally curious
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's over 20 professional grade tools used across industries, from marketing and film to architecture to education. So I have two very different students that live in my house, y'all. Like my daughter and my son, polar opposite human beings. And both of them have found different aspects of Creative Cloud that have like helped them blossom. And so thinking about how that happens, engaging students with those apps so that they feel professional too. Like my daughter's super into photography,
Yeah.
and my son loves like 3D, like tinkering and like 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. Like he's very STEM based. And so for all of that, it's just really cool to see the apps that help engage students. It also saves time. Did you know that Firefly, generative AI Firefly apps are like built across these apps? And
Yeah, I did because like the way I when I talk about Firefly, I'm like that is Adobe's AI tool that is powering these along that spectrum. But I think the cool thing is when you're talking about it being directly built into tools, supports creative thinking, media
Mm-hmm.
literacy, right? But these are the tools also like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro listed right there in the little blurb, but it literally is right empowering students, and it's designed responsibly in K-12, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's it's right there.
It's so I'm here for all of it. The other part of that is you can use ready-made standards aligned templates and real-time feedback, just like you can in Adobe Express that like transcends the apps. And then last but not least, building future ready skills. We talk about like that communication piece, the collaboration piece that we've been touching on, communication, obviously technical fluency, but there's also certifications that count towards college and career ready that students can tap into at the high school level. And they just launched Adobe Express in marketing within this past year too. So now that's a certification. These are things that students can take in high school, have in their hand, go get an internship, put that on your portfolio, put that on your LinkedIn, you know, and be able to really set themselves apart compared to peers that don't necessarily get into industry level apps and certifications. So how are we setting students up for those future ready skill and success in that capacity? So
And
moving
Martha,
on, yes,
right? Like you use that phrase creative toolkit. And so like as we get into this, like the tools available to K-12 with age appropriate access, educator managed controls, and available across devices, right? Like Windows, Mac, Chromebooks, iPads, give students those opportunities to explore digital
yeah,
design, video, photography, drawing, 3D imagery, and more. So get like jump into it because here are some of those creativity and design tools. You see the like the spans of them listed on screen now for different sort of like categories, if you will.
yeah, and this isn't everything, y'all, like
Yeah.
just for record. But if you wanted to screenshot this or like whatever for folks that are watching at home, I would just screenshot it because it's fun to tinker and play around with different tools to be able to accomplish what it is that you're hoping to accomplish. Like if you're developing engaging presentations or like InDesign, we use all the time for newsletters or conference brochures and stuff like that, sharing your story through video, which now like remove background noise and all that kind of stuff is just phenomenal. Editing photos, y'all, if you follow Anne and I on the socials, you may have watched me. I'm over here on Lightroom removing people from all my vacation photos. So it's not just for the classroom either, it's for like everyday life that you can go and use that. 3D design that we were just talking about, illustrations and drawings and modifying documents, like the whole 9 yards. It's all about giving students the tools to think critically, create with purpose, and communicate effectively no matter what subject they're in school and out of school. I know we're short on time, Anne, so I'm just going to try to
Yep.
like move us
Go.
through. But y'all, like just thinking about this, I love how Anne mentioned earlier, you mentioned the spectrum, because even though on the screen you're thinking about supporting creativity from K through 12, just because it's listed here on this screen, like, yes, Photoshop is great for middle schoolers. That's an easy entry level, like professional grade tool that students can use to edit photos, but they don't need to wait till middle school. Like if you have a third grader or fourth grader or fifth grader that's like super into it, allow them to test that out. That's what's really cool about a Creative Cloud license. You have access to all of these apps and you can go up and down this spectrum and they can just tinker and play. You're not going to break anything. It's all in the cloud. You can play and tinker, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So just thinking about that, just keep that in mind. And then thinking through this, I think about this story of a student and they're starting in elementary school, right? Like, why do we even start in elementary school? These are foundational years. We're teaching reading, we're teaching math. Where does creativity really fit into that? And that, to me, is the perfect age to build all of this in. I'm speaking to the choir with Anne because you were my favorite kindergarten teacher, you and Shell. So cute. because that's when students are naturally full of curiosity, imagination. It's the desire to express themselves. It's pre-testing, and it just allows for so much flexibility and fun and engagement in a non-threatening way for kids. That is just a natural alignment to where they are in the cognitive development cycle that they're in. Not cycle, spectrum. Moving on from one, it's development stage. Y'all, this plain brain is getting to me at 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. But when students can express, yep, we're doing all the things. We are so excited to see this come to life in elementary just because they're naturally curious, y'all. Thinking about that, when they move to middle school, creativity grows with maturity. It goes from that imagination and curious stage, and yeah, they still have that, but it becomes more intentional and drives impact with purpose, broader connections, and is a tool that'll grow with them and that they can hold on to, like portfolios that sticks with students throughout their entire career. And then when you think about high schoolers, this is really their time to shine and develop those portfolios that are going on to college and career ready, those internships, those next stages. And it's from ideas that impact real world applications. But I love that journey. Don't be scared to try that out in elementary, middle or high school. But yeah, thinking about classroom to career, showing what's possible. We talked about that. Y'all, if you want to connect with Anna or myself, we'd love to talk about how portfolios really tell the whole story and the story of failing forward and getting ready for what comes next. That is where students become confident creators, storytellers, and problem solvers, and prepared internally and externally with all of their stuff for whatever comes next in their lives. And so I'm going to, just because we're at time, I'm going to lean all the way to the end, friends. And if you have your phone or whatever, I hope that you will scan this QR code and keep learning. But if you are at ISTE or not at ISTE, we have a short link for you. It's adobe.ly ISTE community at ISTE. And we are just so excited to be with you all at ISTE and hashtag not at ISTE. Feel free to share all the love and engagement. We're always ready and excited to connect with you in whatever capacity that you're joining us at ISTE with. So, Anne, thanks for being a fabulous co-host. We
Oh my gosh, I love the conversations. Keep the learning going, folks. Get connected. And thanks for catching this.
Oh, I'm going to do my millennial heart. I love y'all.